r/AskReddit. Reddit is no longer on speaking terms with their former best friend for life due to one incident. What happened? She stopped talking to me after I wouldn't buy anything from her for her MLM. She eventually escaped the MLM, but it's been about 8 years with no communication. This happened to me too. A woman I became friends with through mutual friends started doing a jewelry MLM and was trying to get more business, so of course she asked a few friends who were pushovers to host her parties. After being invited to 5 parties in 2 months, I had only attended 2 of them out of feeling obligated. I told everyone I probably wasn't going to go to another one for a while, and that I wasn't in a position to buy anything at the time, since I'd just bought a house. Well, about 2 weeks go by, and I went to my friend's house for a little get together, and what I know, this woman has her MLM all on display, and I was tricked into having to sit through her sales pitch again. Which, whatever, there was free food and wine, so I just flipped through the sales booklet and minded my own business. Soon after this woman got done with her pitch, I passed by her in the kitchen and asked her how she was doing and how her family was, etc. She answered with something to the effect of, well, I would be doing much better if some people would be better friends and host a party for me. She then went on to say that I was a shit friend and that the other girls were better friends because they hosted parties for her and I didn't. I was dumbfounded. This woman was 40 something years old and talking like something out of a teenage drama. So I emphatically apologized and told her I'd been to 3 out of 6 parties for the same thing over the past few months and was broke as a joke from house expenses. Didn't faze her at all. So I just stopped talking to her. Didn't come as a surprise that all of the friends who supported her business no longer wanted anything to do with me after that conversation, so when they stopped reaching out, so did I. Sad. Really? Knew a girl for 5 years, and every single time she broke up with whatever boyfriend she was dating at the time, she'd take it out on me. That doesn't seem so bad, but she had close to 6 boyfriends a year or something like that. The last straw was when my grandfather died, and I was very torn up about it, but turns out she'd broken up with her boyfriend the very same day. So after telling me what a horrible friend I was and how I'm never there for her, I just completely ghosted her. She lives 1 street over from me, so I constantly see her driving by and staring at me. Rented an apartment together. Went off to basic training and kept funneling money to him to pay for my half of the rent. He decides to move out and doesn't let the landlord know. I get a $900 collections item added to my credit report. We haven't spoken since he refused to pay it. So you were giving him money for your half of the rent and he wasn't paying anything at all? He was knowingly stealing from you? That's horrible. He was paying for the rent while he was living there using the money I was sending him. That's not the bad part. It was that he told me he was going to move out, but did not tell our landlord. So the landlord charged us for the next month, even though nobody was living there. Damn. That sucks, because with orders you cold broken the lease without penalty. This shitty. I mean, it fed his credit too. But still, that sucks. I learned that after I got to my first duty station. My recruiter never mentioned it to me. Surprise lol. I still had a dumb trusting mindset back then, so I probably would have kept paying for it anyway. Our dads got in a verbal fight and we just kinda stopped hanging out. The worst thing is that our dads are cool now, but since I haven't talked to this friend for years, we are now strangers to each other. The old folks know it's easier to forgive an otherwise agreeable person than it is to make a new friend. He knocked up my wife. Now ex-wife, I assume. Yep. They're married. Man, that's so fed up. At one point, those 2 were most likely 2 people you trusted and cared for the most, and they both stabbed you in the back. That's the lowest of the low, man. I feel for you. That's the type of stuff that can ruin all of your friendships. Guy I grew up with found out his best friend was sleeping with his wife for 6 months. Not the first time she cheated on him either. She tried throwing everyone under the bus, saying all of his friends were trying to sleep with her. He didn't know who to believe, so he just flipped out, cussed everyone out, and cut ties with everyone except her. Everyone kept telling him I'd never do that to you, but after your best friend does something like that I can't blame him for not believing them. They moved to another state, where they didn't know anyone except her parents. Wait, sorry, he cut ties with everyone, except the wife who cheated on him multiple times? Priorities. That's what I said. When I saw how it played out I knew there was no reasoning with him, so just took his decision and ran with it. Borrowed my PC. Found all of my passwords auto-saved in Chrome. He deleted as many accounts as he could. Sent inappropriate emails to business contacts. Deleted personal files. He did it out of nowhere and with no real reason. I just recall him saying I'm gonna play a prank on you at some point and I just laughed. I guess that is what he was referring to. Scumbag. Worst part is that he is my cousin and he did this for no reason. A few months after he borrowed my PC, he took a picture of the passwords. Wow, good prank. Almost as good as the one prank they play in Afghanistan. You tell the coalition forces that your buddy has guns, bombs, and drugs in his house, and that he is part of the Taliban. Classic. Did he simply do it for fun? She told me my boyfriend had been texting her, and they had plans to meet up that afternoon to have sex, but she couldn't, and had to tell me. We went over to his place, she went in first, and I told her to text me when he started making moves. I get the text, knock on his door. He opens and says you shouldn't be here, before slamming the door in my face. I knock again and I say, I know she's fucking in there, we came together, it's over. We leave together, and that was it for me and him. It was over for her and I when she started dating him a week later. 7 years of friendship gone like that. She was a snake. Edit. I haven't been on Reddit long, so I don't know if I should reply to everyone or post an edit here, so I'll do the edit LMAO for time's sake. This happened when I was 17. He was 20. She was 18. I had dated him for 3 years at that point and she vehemently hated him the entire time. I guess it was jealousy, or maybe they had been hooking up together long before that. I'm not sure. They aren't together anymore, but they lead similar, unhappy lives. I'm with a good man who loves me, and we have been together 7 years now. This just blows my mind. How does a conversation like that even happen? Hey, I know I set you up, and caused you, and Trees too to break up, but, IDK, you wanna get together? He's so dumb for trusting her after that. You dodged 2 bullets. My dad died unexpectedly, and she wasn't there for me at all. Her response was basically AWW. At least you have a boyfriend. My ex, and she was my friend for about a solid 10 years, before we even started dating, told me when I completely broke down telling her that the reason I'm so out of it these days is that my mom's biopsy came back, and it's cancer, and I was just so afraid that she, and I quote, does not appreciate being emotionally blackmailed. I was like, come again. You think him telling you that for something other than being fucking terrified? I broke up with her couple days later when she said that shit again. Fuck you, from the bottom of my heart. That's the kind of FU that comes from deep within your gut. Like when you're taking introductory singing lessons. That's a FU that bursts out of your soul. His wife decided she loved me / wanted me. I don't blame him one bit for cutting ties, though I miss them both very much. We were all young and stupid, and not up for maturely dealing with that situation at the time. To make it worse, his last girlfriend, before getting married, made a similar decision. A couple decades later we chatted online for a minute. It was like old times, same feel, same instant click, same easy conversation and understanding between us, and guess what? He was getting married again. He linked me their Facebook page and they looked great together. Without thinking, I said she's really lovely, I can't wait to meet her. He went silent and then dropped offline. Never talked to me again. Still don't blame him. Are you like crazy handsome or something? It's called mojo. My mom went overseas for a year, and before she left she gave me one of those yellow ribbon magnets that said keep my mommy safe. I hung it up in my locker at school that my friend and I shared. One day it went missing, and she never admitted to it, but only her and I knew the combo to our locker. Did someone just run by the locker when it was open one day and snatch it for no reason? I doubt it. She was a compulsive liar and most likely she got pissed at me for something pointless and threw it away. Yes, it's just a magnet, but I was 16 and my mom was just sent halfway across the world to an unsafe country. Every single day I thought whether I'd ever see her again. The magnet meant everything to me. F you Amy. What a bee. My childhood best friend was at a restaurant having dinner with his girlfriend and invited my roommate and I to join them for after dinner drinks. We arrived at the restaurant and ordered a single pitcher of PBR. Afterwards the waitress dropped off the check which included my friend's dinner and the pitcher of PBR. My friend insisted we split the check 4 ways. I said no way and asked to see the receipt so I could figure out how much we owe for the beer. He made a loud ordeal about it, saying sarcastically, "Oh yeah, the guy who went to community college is going to tell me how to divide the check." My roommate and I gave him some cash for our beer and then left. The next morning I called him to say how shitty he had acted, and he brushed it off saying we were both so drunk. We can't drink that much next time. He never owned up to it, and I haven't seen him since. Had a huge friend-splosion which resulted in my wife and I losing several friends. I'll try to keep this simple. Names changed to protect the innocent and the guilty. We had a large group of friends from our church for several years. We hung out virtually every weekend, went to the beach, hung out at each other's houses, etc. So one of the couples in the group, we'll call them Dave and Betty, were a bit physically intimate without being married. Note that we're all adults in our 20s with jobs and stuff. Anyway, Betty's dad didn't like Dave. Somehow Betty, Dave, and her parents ended up in church counseling to resolve these issues. At some point in counseling, it comes out that they're physically intimate and Betty's dad blows up, demands she stops seeing him, makes a big deal about it to the pastor. Dave's a piano player in the church, and they demand he stops playing, etc. So basically my wife and I were 100% on Dave's side in all of this, and no one else was. So we got Dave in the breakup/blowout, and lost everyone else. Funny epilogue, a few years later it comes out that Betty's dad had been having a secret affair for years, so you know, he comes out super credible in his condemnation of his daughter's premarital sexual activity, but you know how that goes. Sounds like you wound up getting to keep the good one. Pretty much. Dave remains a true friend years later. Whenever he would contact me, he would always want something. Usually money. He didn't contact me just to hang out or do something with our spouses. I began to dread seeing his name come up on my phone. One of the last times we did get together, he asked for some money and then insulted my wife. I have ghosted him, hoping he changes, but not feeling confident he will. Ouch. My friend was similar. The breaking point was when I hadn't replied to her latest plea for money, so she showed up at my mom's workplace. Olive 1000 plus, and heard the story secondhand from a couple people and all the details were lining up. When I called her to ask WTF, she started saying she was a victim. My mom is terrible, they're all liars, and please BTW I need $3k. I can deal with most of it, but like, don't fuck with my mama. She's a hard-working lady, doing a great job, has taken in a couple of my friends when they were going through hard times. If she had come to the house to talk, my ma would have helped her out. But instead she showed up my ma's work, made a scene, went on a tirade, got cops called, and then tried to start shit with our other friends. I haven't talked to her since, and I'm not entirely sure how much our mutual friends still see of her. He became more and more religious as time went on and started to expect me to follow the same laws he was starting to follow as an Orthodox Jew. I have nothing against the religion and actually find it quite fascinating. I just was not interested in participating in it. When we lived together, I wasn't allowed to store meat in the house, wasn't allowed to play music, among other things. Eventually he met a girl, and even though Orthodox Jews are not supposed to even touch a girl before marriage, they decided that, because they had not been raised Orthodox, they could let this one slide, lol. So she moved in, with her 2 elderly dogs, which would have been fine, if they didn't leave them in our apartment, unattended for 24 hours every Friday night through Saturday night. Yep, they did not have anyone to take care of their dogs during that time, because all of their friends were also Jewish, and participating in the same holiday, I can't remember what it's called, and expected me to do it. But they didn't tell me this. I literally came home on a Saturday afternoon to the dogs whining, no food or water, and having shit all over the place. Nope. Fuck that. I ended up moving out, and got shafted out of a month's rent in the process. I called him some names, and we haven't spoken since. You were paying rent and he dictated what music you could or could not listen to, and the food you could eat? Yikes. We were like sisters in high school. Her family was a second family to me, because mine was pretty shitty. We went to college together and something changed. She met a new friends group, and treated me like every little thing I said or did was the most annoying thing in the world. She'd go out of her way to ditch me for group events with mutual friends, conveniently forgetting to invite me until other mutual friends mentioned it. So I became a doormat for her to try to win her favor back. She had no car, so I drove her everywhere. She got ditched by her friends when it came to campus housing, after planning to ditch me, but not telling me anything, leaving me to a random roommate assignment, because by her plan I'd only find out when it was too late to pick someone, and I pulled her back in to be my roommate, so she would have a place to stay, after which she continued to treat my presence like the most annoying thing ever. Her cat got sick, and she had no money, so I paid for her cat's emergency treatment. And if it were fresh in my memory I could list so much more. And truth be told I'd be willing to give the shirt off of my back to any of my friends. I value them so much. For her it was no different. She took advantage of that, but it was never enough to win back her friendship. Then after college we drifted apart. I tried again to rekindle a friendship. We were once like sisters, and I thought it was worth trying to save it. She invited me to her house for a dinner party with her friends. We were watching some show with a character that looked familiar. I asked to use her computer to look up the actor, and open on the desktop was a chat with her boyfriend about how she wished her high school friends would just stop trying. Apparently I stopped being a friend to her in high school. So I did as she wished, and I stopped trying. I told her I saw the chat and that we were done. I haven't spoken to her in nearly 10 years. Stole my identity and used it to get me charged with a DUI in another state. Was helping me plan my bachelor party and gladly accepted being best man while I was still trying to figure out what happened. Took 2 years to get my license back. Unreal how slow the court systems work in general, but when you need them to admit they made a mistake it goes on the back burner big time. Wedding took place after I figured it all out, so luckily he isn't in any of the memories/pictures. Haven't spoken since. It was my brother. She told me that I spent too much time with my husband. She also told me I was too depressed when my mom died, that she was depressed because her boyfriend didn't call her that morning to say hello to her, and she's the upset one. Oh, and there was the time she asked if we could open my mom's urn to see the insides, and then said it was so cute and totally matches my purse, while flailing it around. Who the fuck picks up an urn of someone you don't know? There's lots of little things too, I guess. We just kinda grew apart because she was a drama queen and I wanted to go spend time with my dying mother. Then she got engaged to an asshole, and I told her I didn't agree. He has put his hands on her, and that was that. I was getting a divorce. My then husband and my former BFF's husband were good friends. I didn't share the gritty details of why my marriage was ending with my friend. My ex was a horrible person to me, but I didn't want to put my friend in an awkward position with her own husband considering the friendship he had with mine. She got mad at me for not telling her the details and made a bunch of unfounded accusations, and I knew I'd never be able to trust her again. I hope you find that best friend that actually cares and understands you. If you have not already, Friends do not need to tell you everything that's going on, even if you're best friends. I'm glad you got out of the marriage, by the way. Everyone's reply is a bombshell and mine is really lame in comparison. We're 31. We were best mates in high school, but as the years went on I realized he just kinda stopped developing at 15. It's the most bizarre thing. Same clothes, same tired jokes, same 5 favorite songs, same outlook on women and gay people, heavily outdated mentality. To paint a visual, I would entirely expect that walking into his bedroom would be greeted with Sports Illustrated centerfolds still stuck on his wall. Does anyone else know someone like this? Yes. This is my once best friend from high school. When we were 17, we had essentially the same ideas about everything, aside from religion. I'm Christian and he is Sikh. We went to the same junior college, but then we transferred to 2 different schools 6 years later. Whenever I see him at group events from back home, I realize how different I'm from him now. I feel like I'm an entirely different person than I was in high school/junior college, but he seems to be exactly the same. It's like he hasn't aged a day. It's like you said, same jokes, same ideas, same goals. A Nissan 370Z was his dream in high school. It's his dream again, since he crashed the first one he finally saved up enough to buy. Same job. It's harsh, but I realize now that the person I'm today would really dislike the person I was in high school. The bit about the car hits close to home. My friends are all gearheads and constantly talked about all the cool cars we were going to buy once we could afford them. One friend in particular always wanted a Mustang, and my dream car was, still is, a Subaru WRX Impreza. Now fast forward about 5 years, I'm married, making a good income and still haven't bought my car that I can very much afford. He is 26, making almost nothing at his job. He really likes it, so I can't really blame him for not going somewhere else. Single with absolutely no idea how an adult relationship works, still living with his parents, and just bought his Mustang. He can barely afford it, and that's only because he doesn't really have any living expenses, doesn't buy groceries, doesn't pay for utilities, rent, etc. Just a car payment and insurance. He paid $7,500 for a 14-year-old Mustang GT and took out a 6-year loan on it. Every time we hang out he asks me, when are you gonna man up and buy that WRX? He thinks the only reason I haven't bought it is because my wife won't let me, which couldn't be further from the truth. His financial decisions are some of the most immature things I've ever seen. Gets a couple grand from his tax return, and instead of using it to pay down some of his student loans for a degree he didn't even finish, or use some of it to get his own place, he goes out and spends $1,500 on wheels and tires for his Mustang. I don't know what change happened in me that didn't happen for him to get us to this point, but he's 3 years older than me, and I feel like his life coach. I used to go over and play video games and outside games with my neighbor all the time in elementary school. One day after playing with our Pokemon cards, we were making paper airplanes. He holds up a piece of folded paper for me and asks me to make a scissor cut through it. The nice guy I am, I help him out, completely unsuspecting of any funny business. Why would I? I've been best friends with this guy for years and we spend a ton of our time together. Big mistake. For some reason he thought it would be funny if he hid one of my favorite cards behind the paper, holographic Pidgeot if you are curious, and trick me into cutting my own card in half. Once I realized what happened I felt so betrayed and just started crying. After that it was never the same, and we grew apart pretty rapidly. Of course we went through the next 10 years of schooling together, which was uncomfortable to say the least. TL. Doctor, Pokemon card destroyed a friendship. Not a Pokemon card, but a shitty joke destroyed your friendship. We got drunk the day before we'd go home for Thanksgiving break. I was going home a day earlier than her. She struggled with depressions, which I already knew, but that night she drunkenly told me that she tried to kill herself already too, was waiting to do it again over Christmas break because she'd be alone. It hit me that with me going in the morning, she'd be alone in her dorm room the next day. I had no clue to know if she wasn't telling the truth and exaggerating in a drunken ramble, so I called my mom, a licensed social worker, for help. Wrong move. She's under legal obligation to report it to the police. I didn't even have a say in the matter. Police were called. There was no going back, and I decided to stand by my decision, knowing I would lose her, but hopefully get her some help. Got the RA, snuck her phone, and called her brother, who went to the same school as us. He called her parents, and she got taken to the hospital crying about how I betrayed her trust. I was the first and only person she told I betrayed that, and it stuck with me because I know it probably messed her up. After it was over, she claims that she knew why I did it and she wasn't mad, but it didn't matter. Damage was done. We talked maybe a handful of times and it's been about 2 years later. Sometimes I see pictures she or a friend posts and she looks like she's doing well, and that makes me smile, even though I miss her so much. Tried reaching out to her one time, she ignored my text. But she seems to be alive and happy, so that's all that matters, I suppose. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. I would be so grateful if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. New videos every day.